There will come a moment in your life when someone will realize what they lost. They'll look back and remember your laughter, your kindness, your effort, your quiet strength. They'll remember the way you cared, not because they earned it, but because that's who you are. They'll remember the moments you stayed when they gave you every reason to leave. And one day, they'll wish they had treated you better. But when that day comes, don't you dare go back. You see, it's not your job to teach someone how to value you after they've already lost you. You are not a lesson they get to repeat. You are a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and once someone has mishandled that, it's their regret to carry, not yours. The truth is, they didn't lose you when they walked away. They lost you when they couldn't meet you, where your soul was asking to be met. They lost you when they mistook your gentleness for weakness and your forgiveness for foolishness. They lost you when they believed your silence meant indifference. But your silence wasn't indifference, it was dignity. So don't break your own heart by reopening a door you've already healed from. Don't let loneliness trick you into revisiting a chapter you've already outgrown. Remember, missing someone doesn't mean they deserve to come back. Missing someone means you have a heart. But not everyone who touches your heart deserves a seat in your future. Healing isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. Healing is about accepting that it did, and still choosing yourself anyway. The hardest thing in the world is walking away from what feels familiar, even when you know it's not good for you. But that's where your strength is born. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't seek revenge. It simply moves on with grace. You don't need to prove your worth to the people who couldn't see it. Time will do that for you. Life has a way of revealing truth, quietly, patiently, inevitably. One day they'll scroll through memories and realize the warmth they felt was never from the room, it was from your presence. They'll see that the peace they took for granted was something you brought with you. They'll come to understand that losing you wasn't just losing a person. It was losing a version of themselves they could have become if they had chosen better. But by then, you will have already moved on. Wiser, softer, stronger. You'll look back not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because what they broke in you, life rebuilt in gold. Don't chase people. Don't beg them to stay. Don't explain your worth to anyone who made you question it. The people meant for you will recognize your soul, not just your smile. They won't need reminders to treat you right. They won't wait until you're gone to value what they had. So, when someone leaves, let them. You're not losing them, you're finding yourself again. Never forget, walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering your power. You deserve peace more than you deserve closure. You deserve growth more than you deserve explanations. And you deserve love that chooses you, not love that confuses you. They will regret losing you, but that regret is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to rise, rebuild, and remain open to the life that awaits you. Because when you learn to stop running back to what hurt you, you make room for what's meant for you. And that, my friend, is when your story truly begins. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's power. Yet, for so long, the world has taught us the opposite. We've been conditioned to believe that strength means silence, that courage means composure, and that revealing our emotions is somehow a sign of fragility. But the truth is, vulnerability is the birthplace of authenticity, courage, and deep human connection. When you stand in your truth, raw, unfiltered, and open, you become untouchable in a way that no amount of pretense could ever achieve. People who walk away from your honesty are not rejecting you. They're rejecting the discomfort of facing their own unhealed parts. They are rejecting the mirror you hold up that reflects what they cannot yet confront within themselves. And that's not your loss. It's theirs. There's a sacred kind of strength in being able to say, "This is me." Not the polished, filtered version, but the real one. The one that trembles when it speaks. The one that still loves despite being hurt. The one that shows up even when afraid. That's what it means to be truly alive. Vulnerability isn't about oversharing or dramatizing pain. It's about showing up with your heart open, knowing it might get bruised, but trusting that you'll survive and grow regardless. That's not weakness, that's extraordinary courage. Because it's easy to hide, it's easy to shut down. It's easy to build walls high enough that no one can touch you. But those same walls that keep out pain also keep out joy. When you are vulnerable, you give yourself permission to live fully. You stop existing for approval and start living for truth. You stop performing strength and start embodying it. And that scares people who haven't yet learned that emotional honesty is the purest form of strength. They mistake your openness for nana VTA. They think you're easy to hurt because you wear your heart on your sleeve. But what they don't see is the silent resilience that comes with choosing to feel instead of shutting down. They don't understand that vulnerability isn't an invitation to be broken. It's a declaration that you've already survived enough to stop pretending. The people who walk away when you're vulnerable never understood your depth. They saw the surface, not the soul. They were comfortable with the idea of you, not the reality of you. They wanted your light, but not your shadow. But real love, real friendship, real connection. They're not built in perfection, they're born in the cracks. In the moments where we let down our guard and let someone see our imperfections without fear. If someone can't stay when you're real, they were never meant to grow with you. And yes, they will regret losing you. Because one day, they'll realize that the very openness they mocked was the thing that made you irreplaceable. We live in a world that celebrates the mask more than the face. We applaud those who appear strong, composed, and unbothered, while quietly punishing those who express pain or tenderness. But that's why vulnerability is revolutionary. It defies the culture of pretense. It whispers, "I'm human, and that's enough." It says, "I may have scars, but I'm still worthy." It teaches others that real strength isn't in how much you hide, but in how much you dare to reveal. When you choose vulnerability, you take your power back from the world that told you to harden. You stop needing validation because you find meaning in authenticity. You stop trying to control how people perceive you and start focusing on living a life that feels aligned with your truth. Vulnerability doesn't make you dependent. It makes you free. Because once you've faced your own truth, nothing anyone says can truly shake you. When you've stood in your own storm, no outside judgment can define your peace. The beautiful irony of vulnerability is that it doesn't make you fragile. It makes you magnetic. People are drawn to those who are unapologetically real, because deep down, we're all craving that kind of honesty. We all want to be seen without fear of rejection, loved without performance, valued without conditions. And when you live vulnerably, you give others permission to do the same. You become a safe space in a world full of masks. You inspire courage just by being yourself. That's power, quiet, radiant, and transformative power. So when someone walks away because you showed them your truth, don't take it as rejection. Take it as redirection. The universe removes those who can't meet your vulnerability with depth, because it's clearing the way for those who can. You're not too much. You're not too emotional. You're not too sensitive. You're exactly as you should be, deeply feeling, beautifully human, and courageously open. People who are capable of genuine love will see your vulnerability as the treasure it is, not a burden to carry. Think about it. What does it take to love in a world that tells you to protect yourself? What does it take to keep your heart open after it's been hurt? That's not weakness. That's the purest form of bravery. Vulnerability asks you to risk being misunderstood for the sake of staying true. It demands that you choose authenticity over acceptance. And that choice, that unwavering commitment to truth, is what makes you unstoppable. Because when you stop hiding who you are, no one can use your truth against you. People will regret losing someone like you because you represent something rare. You represent emotional honesty in a world that's afraid of it. You represent real connection in a culture addicted to appearances. You represent softness in a time when everyone is trying to appear strong. And one day, those who couldn't meet you where you were will look back and realize they lost something extraordinary. Someone who wasn't afraid to love deeply, to feel fully, and to live authentically. So hold your head high. Don't water down your emotions to make others comfortable. Don't suppress your truth to fit into shallow spaces. You don't need to become harder to be respected. The right people will see your vulnerability as your greatest strength. The right people will protect it, not exploit it. And when that happens, you'll understand that every person who left, every moment of pain, every tear you shed for being too much, was simply clearing the path for you to meet the ones who know that being real is the most powerful thing a human being can ever be. Because vulnerability isn't about breaking down. It's about breaking open. It's about trusting that even if the world sees your cracks, you'll still shine through them. And when you live that way, fearlessly, honestly, vulnerably, you become someone no loss can ever diminish. You become someone who no longer needs to prove their worth through perfection. You become someone who understands that the heart's greatest strength lies not in how tightly it guards itself, but in how bravely it stays open. Even after being broken, that is your power. And those who couldn't see it will one day realize they didn't lose someone ordinary. They lost someone real. Self-worth is non-negotiable. It is not something that should be debated, bargained with, or measured by how others treat you. It's not dependent on your relationship status, your career, your appearance, or the validation you receive from the outside world. It's an internal truth, a quiet, unwavering knowing that you are enough as you are. The most dangerous thing you can do is hand that truth over to someone else and let them decide it for you. Because the moment you begin to seek your worth from people, you give them the power to destroy it. Real strength begins when you stop chasing approval and start standing in your value, even when no one else claps for you. Too many people lose themselves trying to prove their value to someone who has already made up their mind not to see it. They bend, they shrink, they give, they overcompensate, all in the hope of being chosen, being appreciated, being loved. But here's the truth. If someone needs to be convinced of your worth, they will never truly value it. Because worth isn't something to be earned through performance. It's something that must be recognized through presence. You don't need to fight for a seat at a table that was never built to honor you. You are not meant to beg for respect or chase love that constantly slips away. The kind of love that requires you to lose yourself isn't love. It's dependency disguised as connection. Your worth existed long before anyone acknowledged it. It existed when you were unseen, unappreciated, and misunderstood. It existed when people took advantage of your kindness or failed to reciprocate your loyalty. It existed even when you doubted yourself. Self-worth isn't built on recognition. It's built on resilience. It's the inner voice that whispers, "I deserve better," even when your heart aches. It's the decision to walk away from anything that makes you forget how valuable you are. Because love without respect isn't love. Attention without consistency isn't commitment. And presence without effort isn't care. When you finally realize your worth, you stop accepting half-hearted love. You stop tolerating people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop over-explaining why you deserve to be treated with kindness, You no longer wait for someone to change so you can feel validated. You understand that not everyone is capable of seeing your light, but that doesn't mean it isn't shining. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that weren't built for your growth. Because self-worth doesn't come from how well you fit into someone's world. It comes from how confidently you build your own. There's a quiet power that comes from no longer needing to prove yourself. It's a calmness that comes when you realize you don't need to be chosen to be valuable. When you know who you are, rejection doesn't define you, it refines you. Disappointment doesn't destroy you, it redirects you. Every time someone underestimates you, they reveal more about their blindness than about your worth. You learn that not everyone can meet you at the level of your heart. And that's okay. Some people will only value you when they see others doing it. Some will only respect you once you no longer need their approval. But your worth is constant, even when unseen. Standing in your worth also means setting boundaries, not as walls, but as acts of self-respect. It means saying no when something doesn't align with your peace. It means refusing to engage in relationships where love is conditional or one-sided. It means understanding that your energy is precious and not everyone deserves access to it. People who truly value you won't make you question your importance. They won't take your presence for granted or use your loyalty as a safety net. They'll meet your energy with effort, your trust with consistency, and your openness with care. Anything less than that isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to value something rare. You teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. When you lower your standards to accommodate someone's inconsistency, you tell them it's acceptable. When you chase someone who's walking away, you show them that your time and love can be taken for granted. But when you honor yourself, when you stop settling for less, when you stop explaining your value, when you stop begging for attention, something magical happens. You shift the energy. You stop attracting those who want to use your light and start attracting those who respect it. Because people who are secure in themselves will always respect those who are secure in their own worth. It's okay if people walk away when you start valuing yourself. Not everyone is meant to stay in the presence of your strength. Some only loved you when you didn't love yourself enough to have boundaries. Some only stayed because your insecurities made them comfortable. But when you rise into your power, when you start saying enough to disrespect, manipulation, and emotional games, they'll say you've changed. And you have. You've evolved from needing validation to embodying self-respect. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. Real self-worth is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself or demand attention. It simply exists. It's the peace you feel when you stop overthinking someone's silence. It's the confidence that allows you to let go of what doesn't grow you. It's the dignity that keeps you from arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer chase closure because you've made peace with yourself. You stop searching for love because you've already found it within. There's nothing more powerful than a person who knows their worth and refuses to settle. You don't need to prove your value to those who can't see it. Time will make it evident. Life has a beautiful way of revealing who was real and who only loved the version of you that served their comfort. Let them go. Let them learn the hard way that losing someone who loves deeply, forgives easily, and gives genuinely is not something you recover from. You don't have to take them back to show you've healed. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to keep moving forward in silence, glowing in the self-worth that once felt impossible to claim. When you truly know your worth, you stop playing small. You stop apologizing for being too much, too ambitious, too emotional, too strong. You realize that people who say too much are simply too little to handle you. Your self-worth becomes your compass. It leads you toward peace and away from chaos. It whispers that you deserve love that feels safe, not confusing. It reminds you that your value doesn't rise or fall with someone's opinion. So, never negotiate your worth. Never beg for what should be freely given. Never chase after what requires you to forget who you are. The love you give so easily to others, give that to yourself. Stand tall in your value. The right people won't need you to prove it. They'll see it. The wrong ones will regret losing it. But no matter what, you'll remain whole, unshaken, and free, because when you know your worth, no loss can make you question it again. Healing is not revenge, it's freedom. When someone hurts you deeply, your first instinct might be to want them to feel what you felt. You want them to see your pain, to acknowledge it, to regret what they did. But the truth is, real healing doesn't come from watching others suffer. It comes from choosing peace when you could choose resentment. It comes from letting go of the story that keeps you bound to the past. Because as long as you keep replaying the pain, you remain connected to it. Healing means breaking that connection, not by denying what happened, but by deciding it will no longer define you. That is freedom. The kind that can't be taken, only claimed. Revenge feels tempting because it gives us an illusion of control. It makes us feel like we can balance the scales of justice, like we can somehow make the pain fair. But the problem is, revenge doesn't heal. It mirrors the very energy that wounded you. It keeps you tethered to the person who broke you, feeding the same cycle of hurt. When you choose healing instead, you take your power back. You stop letting their actions dictate your peace. You stop waiting for them to feel sorry, to apologize, or to fix what they shattered. Because healing isn't about them. It's about you. It's about refusing to carry poison in your heart while expecting someone else to fall ill. There's an incredible strength in walking away quietly. When you heal without the need to prove anything, you show a kind of maturity that revenge can never offer. The person who hurt you might expect you to crumble, to beg, to chase, to stay angry. But when you rise instead, calm, centered, and at peace, that's the real victory. Healing says, you no longer have control over me. It's saying, you may have hurt me, but you cannot define me. When you heal, you stop waiting for closure and start creating it within yourself. You realize that closure doesn't come from an apology. It comes from acceptance. It comes from deciding to stop reopening the wound in your mind every day. Healing is a process of reclaiming your energy. When you're hurt, a part of you stays trapped in the moment of pain. You replay the words, the betrayal, the disappointment. You analyze what you could have done differently. You hold imaginary conversations in your head, trying to rewrite the ending. But none of that changes what happened. The only thing it does is keep you stuck in emotional quicksand. Healing begins when you finally say, enough. When you stop trying to change the past and instead focus on creating peace in the present. When you redirect your energy from revenge to rebuilding. That's when the transformation begins. Healing doesn't mean pretending you're okay. It doesn't mean forgetting or minimizing what you went through. It means allowing yourself to feel every emotion fully. Anger, grief, sadness, confusion, and then releasing it. It means refusing to let bitterness become your identity. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to hurt. But you are not meant to live there forever. The moment you start to heal, you start to detach your identity from your pain. You stop saying, I'm broken, and start saying, I was hurt, but I'm healing. That shift in language is where freedom begins. There's something deeply empowering about forgiving, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean inviting them back or excusing their behavior. It simply means you are done carrying the burden. You're done letting their choices live rent-free in your mind. You forgive because holding on to hate is heavy, and you're ready to travel light. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that your energy is sacred and shouldn't be wasted on those who chose to harm you. When you focus on healing instead of revenge, your life starts to shift. You begin to attract peace instead of chaos. You start valuing calmness over conflict. You become less reactive and more reflective. The things that used to trigger you lose their power because you no longer need validation from the person who broke you. You realize that your peace is too precious to trade for temporary satisfaction. You understand that revenge may make you feel powerful for a moment, but healing makes you powerful for a lifetime. True healing is quiet. It happens when you're no longer obsessing over being understood. When you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. It's when you stop checking if they miss you. Stop hoping they regret it. Stop wondering if they've changed. Healing is when you wake up one morning and realize they no longer occupy space in your heart the way they used to. It's when their memory no longer hurts. It just exists. It's when you can look back, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the lessons you learned. Because even the pain that broke you taught you something valuable. It taught you how to rebuild yourself stronger. Healing is also about accountability, not theirs, but yours. It's about asking yourself, what did this teach me about my boundaries, about my patterns, about the parts of me that accepted less than I deserved? It's not about self-blame, it's about self-awareness. Healing is when you use your pain as wisdom instead of a weapon. It's when you stop repeating old cycles because you've learned what to look out for. You begin to understand that sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. Not to hurt them, but to protect your peace. You can't heal while trying to prove to the world that you're over it. Healing requires stillness, not performance. It requires patience, not speed. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on, other days you'll feel the pain resurface. That's normal. Healing isn't linear. It's layered. It peels back parts of you that need tenderness, not judgment. So be gentle with yourself. You're not weak for still feeling hurt. You're human. And every time you choose peace over reaction, you're healing a little more. People who hurt you may never understand the impact of what they did. They may never apologize or show remorse. But that's not your problem to solve. Your only responsibility is to ensure you don't become like them. Don't let their behavior turn your heart cold. Don't let their choices make you cynical about love, trust, or connection. Healing means keeping your heart open even when it's been bruised. Because that's how you win. You heal not to prove a point, but to protect your soul. There's a quiet revenge in living well, not in the material sense, but in the emotional one. When you reach a place where their absence no longer disturbs your peace, that's when you've truly won. When you can smile without pretending, when you can love again without fear, when you can wish them well without bitterness. That's healing. You rise above not because you're naive, but because you've learned that holding on to pain only slows you down. Healing is freedom. It's the freedom to live fully without being defined by what happened to you. It's the ability to say, that was part of my story, but it's not the whole book. You stop living as a victim and start living as the author of your own narrative. You begin to see that the pain that once tried to destroy you actually became the foundation of your strength. Healing doesn't erase the past, but it rewrites the meaning of it. It turns the wound into wisdom, the scars into strength, and the heartbreak into higher purpose. So, don't chase revenge. Chase freedom. Don't waste your energy trying to make them regret losing you. Spend that energy building a life so beautiful, peaceful, and authentic that it speaks for itself. You don't need to prove anything. The most powerful form of revenge is peace. The most powerful proof of strength is healing. And the most powerful way to win is to be free. Free from resentment, free from attachment, and free from anything that no longer deserves space in your soul. Boundaries are a form of self-love. They are not walls built out of bitterness, but gates guarded by wisdom. They say, I know what my heart deserves, and I will not allow less. Too often, people confuse boundaries with selfishness, as if protecting your peace means rejecting love. But the truth is, boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about keeping your energy safe. They are a declaration of your worth, a statement that your time, emotions, and presence are sacred. When you start setting boundaries, you stop giving others the power to drain you, control you, or make you question your own value. You stop being at the mercy of other people's moods or choices. You reclaim your space, your energy, your life. A boundary is simply the line between what is acceptable and what is not. And for many people, that line gets blurred when love is involved. You care deeply, you forgive easily, and you want to believe the best in people. Even when they've shown you the worst, you make excuses for their behavior because your heart is kind. But kindness without boundaries turns into self-betrayal. Every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no, you teach others that your peace is negotiable. Every time you allow disrespect to continue unchallenged, you silently agree to your own mistreatment. But when you begin to set boundaries, you teach the world how to treat you. You communicate that love does not mean access without accountability. It takes courage to draw that line, especially when you've spent years people pleasing, trying to be liked, or avoiding conflict. But boundaries are not about anger. They're about clarity. They're about choosing peace over pleasing. You don't have to explain or defend them. You don't owe anyone a long speech about why you've decided to protect your heart. No is a full sentence. Silence is an answer. Distance is a decision. The people who truly care about you will respect those choices. The ones who don't were only comfortable with your lack of self-respect. Boundaries don't push real love away. They reveal it. The right people won't be threatened by your limits. They'll be grateful for them. They'll understand that your boundaries are not barriers but bridges. They create trust, stability, and respect. Love without boundaries turns into chaos. Relationships without respect turn into confusion. And peace without self-protection turns into exhaustion. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't love freely when your soul feels drained from overgiving. Boundaries refill you. They remind you that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. There's a profound shift that happens when you start honoring your boundaries. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listen. You stop trying to fix those who refuse to grow. You stop overextending for those who would never do the same. You realize that not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Some people are meant to stay at a distance, not because you hate them, but because you love yourself enough to know what hurts you. You can forgive someone and still close the door. You can wish them well and still walk away. You can love someone deeply and still choose not to let them keep hurting you. The truth is, boundaries are the highest form of love, not only for yourself but also for others. Because when you have boundaries, you create a space where love can grow safely. You stop enabling toxic patterns. You stop pretending that tolerance is the same as peace. You teach others that love cannot exist where there is disrespect. Sometimes people will test your boundaries to see if they can still control you. They'll call you cold, distant, or ungrateful when you start saying no. But their reaction has nothing to do with your truth. It has everything to do with their comfort. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always be the loudest when you set them. Stay strong anyway. Setting boundaries is not a one-time act. It's a lifelong practice. You will have to reinforce them again and again, especially when you've been used to overgiving. It takes discipline to protect your peace. It takes self-awareness to know when to step back. And it takes strength to walk away from what no longer aligns with your peace. Sometimes, the hardest boundary to set is with yourself. The part of you that keeps going back, that keeps hoping, that keeps trying to save people who are unwilling to save themselves. Self-love means telling that part of you, why deserve better. It means breaking the cycle of overgiving in the name of love. Boundaries are an act of self-trust. They say, I believe I'm worthy of the peace I'm protecting. Without boundaries, love becomes codependency. You start mistaking attachment for affection, chaos for connection, and pain for passion. But when you have boundaries, you can love with clarity. You can care without losing yourself. You can give without being emptied. That's what healthy love feels like. Peaceful, balanced, mutual. When you start living with boundaries, you might lose some people. And that's okay. Some relationships survive only when you're available to be used, when you accept less than you deserve, when you tolerate disrespect. When you start respecting yourself, those relationships naturally fall away. Don't chase them. Let them go. Your peace is worth more than their approval. You will lose the ones who only loved your compliance, but you'll gain the ones who love your confidence. Boundaries filter out those who were never meant to stay and make room for those who value you genuinely. It's important to understand that boundaries aren't about control. They're about responsibility. You can't control how people behave, but you can control how long you allow their behavior to disturb your peace. You can't control how much someone loves you, but you can control how much of yourself you give to those who love you poorly. You can't force someone to treat you right, but you can remove yourself from where you are treated wrong. That's your power. Your silent, unshakable power. Loving yourself enough to set boundaries is a declaration that your well-being matters. It's standing firm in the belief that your peace is sacred. It's refusing to let guilt make you go back to what broke you. It's reminding yourself that every time you choose yourself, you become stronger. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what restores you. Don't apologize for the boundaries that keep you sane. Don't explain the choices that protect your heart. People may not understand your peace until they've lived through your chaos. And those who truly care will never require you to sacrifice your well-being to prove your love. They'll meet you with the same respect you give yourself. In the end, boundaries are not about distance. They're about direction. They guide your life toward peace, authenticity, and balance. They teach you that love without respect is not love at all. They remind you that your heart is not a place for anyone to take advantage of. It's a sacred space that deserves protection, honesty, and care, and when you learn to guard that space, you stop attracting chaos and start welcoming peace. So stand firm. Don't lower your boundaries to make others comfortable. Don't trade your peace for temporary affection. Your boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to a healthier, freer, and more authentic version of you. Those who truly belong in your life will never be pushed away by your boundaries. They'll be drawn closer by the strength, peace, and self-respect that radiate from them. Because when you love yourself enough to say, "This is my limit," you finally begin to live a life that honors your worth. Your future deserves the healed version of you. Not the version that is still chasing after what hurt her. Not the version that keeps reopening old wounds hoping someone will finally understand her pain. The future waiting for you requires strength, peace, and clarity. Not chaos disguised as love. You can't step into your destiny while still dragging the weight of your past. You can't welcome new blessings with hands full of old hurt. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing to move forward with wisdom instead of wounds. It's about understanding that your story doesn't end where you were broken. It begins where you decided to rise. There comes a time when you have to stop waiting for apologies that will never come. You have to stop romanticizing what destroyed you. You have to stop revisiting pain that no longer deserves your attention. Healing is not a reward someone gives you. It's a responsibility you owe yourself. It's the act of looking at your scars and saying, yes, this hurt me, but it didn't end me. It's realizing that your worth is not tied to what you lost, but to what you've learned. When you hold on to the past, you carry a weight that makes it impossible to embrace what's coming. But when you release it, you create space. Space for joy, for peace, for love that doesn't hurt to hold. The healed version of you doesn't chase closure. She creates it. She doesn't wait for people to come back and validate her worth. She knows she is enough even in silence. The healed version of you doesn't lower her standards to be chosen. She raises her energy until she attracts those who choose her naturally. Healing changes the way you see everything: love, loss, success, and even yourself. You stop trying to fix others because you realize that real love can't thrive where self-neglect lives. You stop seeking revenge because you've learned that peace is the most powerful proof of growth. You stop begging for love because you've discovered that the love you give yourself is the foundation of all others. The version of you that's meant for your future walks with grace. She knows that pain was part of her preparation. She understands that what felt like rejection was actually redirection. She's not angry about what didn't work out anymore. She's grateful because it taught her what she deserves. It taught her that she can survive without the people she thought she needed. It taught her that her happiness isn't something someone else can give or take away. Healing doesn't erase the past, but it changes how you carry it. The healed you remembers everything, but no longer suffers from it. She can talk about the pain without reliving it. She can think of those who hurt her and still wish them well. That is real freedom. When the memory no longer burns, it simply exists as part of the story. But getting to that version of yourself isn't easy. Healing asks you to face your fears, your patterns, your pain, not to punish yourself, but to understand yourself. It asks you to stop blaming others and start taking responsibility for your peace. It asks you to sit in silence and listen to what your soul has been trying to tell you. It's not comfortable work. It's messy, painful, and often lonely. You'll miss the comfort of the familiar, even when it was toxic. You'll question whether walking away was the right choice. You'll have days where the weight of healing feels too heavy. But every tear, every lonely night, every step forward is proof that you are no longer living as a victim of your past. You are becoming the author of your future. The healed version of you is not cold, she is calm. She doesn't shut people out, but she no longer lets just anyone in. She doesn't hold grudges, but she doesn't forget her lessons. She's softer but stronger, kinder but wiser. She still loves deeply, but now she loves with discernment. Her heart is open, but guarded by boundaries made of self-respect. This version of you doesn't need to prove her worth to anyone. She knows that her presence is enough. She knows that she doesn't have to fight to be understood. The right people will feel her energy and understand her without explanation. Your future deserves that version of you. The one who no longer flinches at the thought of the past. The one who doesn't let pain dictate her choices. The one who knows that healing is not a destination, but a way of living. It's in how you speak to yourself, how you handle disappointment, how you protect your peace, even when others try to disturb it. Healing is choosing not to let your old wounds bleed on new beginnings. It's refusing to sabotage your blessings because you're afraid of getting hurt again. It's saying, I trust myself enough to try again, even after I've been broken. There will always be memories that linger. People who cross your mind. Moments you wish had ended differently. But healing means accepting that closure isn't always about answers. It's about peace. Some people won't apologize because they don't think they did anything wrong. Some wounds won't heal the way you expected them to. But you can still choose to move forward with love in your heart and peace in your mind. That's what makes you unstoppable. Because the healed version of you doesn't wait for life to be fair. She builds a life that's fulfilling. She stops waiting for someone to come and save her because she's learned to save herself. When you step into that healed version of yourself, your energy changes. You start attracting different people. Those who match your peace, not your pain. You start experiencing life through gratitude, not grief. You start understanding that what's meant for you will never require you to break yourself to keep it. You stop chasing love and start choosing it. The kind that nourishes, not drains. You learn that solitude isn't loneliness, it's preparation. You realize that peace is not found in others, it's built within. And once you reach that place, you'll never go back to chaos again. Your future deserves your healed self, because that's where your power lies. The version of you that knows her worth won't settle for half-hearted love. The version of you that values peace won't tolerate chaos. The version of you that trusts herself won't fall for empty promises. That version is unstoppable because she no longer runs from her pain. She's made peace with it. She no longer tries to control outcomes. She flows with them. She no longer seeks validation. She gives it to herself. You can't rewrite the past, but you can reclaim your power in the present. You can choose to no longer identify with your pain. You can decide that your story is one of survival, strength, and rebirth. The healed version of you isn't bitter about the journey. She's grateful for it. Because every heartbreak taught her to love herself deeper. Every disappointment taught her patience. Every ending taught her that she deserves new beginnings. She's not ashamed of her scars because she knows they're proof that she healed, not proof that she was broken. So don't look back anymore. Don't keep revisiting what's already taught you what you needed to know. The person you were back then did her best to survive. Honor her. But the person you're becoming deserves a life built on peace, not pain. She deserves a heart that loves without fear, a mind that rests without doubt, and a soul that walks freely in truth. The healed version of you isn't waiting, she's arriving. Every choice you make to protect your peace, every time you say no to what hurts and yes to what heals, you're becoming her. And when you finally meet her, the woman who chose healing over hurt, peace over revenge, self-worth over validation, you'll understand why you could never go back. Because your future deserves her more than your past ever did.